Hi, FlossTube Stitchers. Well, I found my intended vintage stitch from last week. It was, folded up, laying on a countertop somewhere. But it's this Merry Christmas that was stitched on a yard of raw, skinny banding. It's like maybe 2¼ inches or something. And I know it came from a Leisure Arts chart. I know I still have it, but I did not look for it. It's probably still packed away from our move 20 years ago because I no longer needed it. It was, I think, a large picture that had 4 or 5 vintage looking or old world Santas on it. The chart may have even been called Old World Santas. And I think this was the bottom of the design. And I'm going to guess that they probably showed it on the banding because I don't know that I would have thought of this myself, but banding was kind of big in those days. So it was meant to go around a basket. And so because I never found the right basket, probably it needs to be square. Remember when all the baskets were round and sloped? It would have been hard to get this to stay properly. So I think it needs to be, a square or rectangular style basket. But I stitched it in the middle because I wasn't sure what I was going to put around it or what I was going to put it around. And then what I would do is trim it and then fold it over and sew ribbon on it so that you could tie the ribbon in a bow on the back. So anyway, I need to keep this out, remind myself of it, and find a way to use it. And then, while I'm cleaning up in my craft room again, I found this hand towel that somebody had made me for Christmas. Pretty sure it was a customer rather than somebody from my stitch group. I think I would have remembered that. But because I never used it, I've lost track of how old it is and who stitched it for me. And I think if I had started using it right away, it might have reminded me of the person and I might still remember who gave it to me. So there was no longer a card or note with it. But it's, really cute with the holly leaves, and it's, neutral enough color that it would go in any bathroom. And I'm going to use this now. Why do we save these things and not use them? In cleaning out my parents' house and probably both of my grandmother's houses, you find things that weren't used, things that are still in the boxes, clothing that still has the tags on it, shoes with no scuff marks on the bottom, gifts that we remember giving them that we never saw out in their house. So I just feel like we all suffer from the same feeling of wanting to keep things pristine and neat and clean and not damaged in any way, but then we're not enjoying them. So darn it, we should all use our gifts. Get that stuff out and use it. As they say, use your good china. This is another gift that I found. Obviously, it had already been opened, so at one point I, knew what it was and who it was from. The note is still on the front, and it is like a Valentine notepad. This is from a dear friend, June, who I was in a stitch group with for a while. She was a part-time helper at the shop for, 5 or so years. And we were also in a scrapbook club together. So this must have been one of the, it probably was the stitch group, because at one point we might have done holiday gifts or monthly gifts. And she might have even been like a secret pal at one point. But this was a Valentine's gift. So it says, Shelly, I know this isn't very Valentine-y, but it is red and so cute. I made this for your Santa scissors. So when I read that, I'm like, what? I don't remember this at all. Look at how cute. It's a scissor, scissor protector, not a scissor fob, a scissor, what is the word I want? Yell it to me. What is the word I want? Anyway, it's to go on your scissors to protect them. And my next thought was, where are my Santa scissors? I don't remember seeing Santa scissors anytime in the last 20 years. Maybe I sold mine to somebody. Maybe she thought I bought a pair because I had a bunch in the shop. But I'm thinking that I might have Santa scissors, and where are they? Need to look for those. Alrighty, those were my vintage gifts. And then this is a brand new shop model that my framer stitched and framed herself, and she's loaning it to me for a week so that I can show it on this video, and then she's gonna take it home for the season. So it is by a designer called Stitches by Ethel. This is called Evergreen and Peppermints, and it was stitched with 1 strand on 32 count linen. And this is a custom frame, but the size is approximately 5 by 7. So if you stitched it on 28 or 32 or 14/16, it would fit in a 5 by 7 frame. And possibly if you stitched it on 36 or 40, it might fit in a 4 by 6 frame, and you might find some fun things in the chain stores. Oh, and let me show you one more thing. Have you ever thought of having your framer put on an easel back instead of just a hanger? So she can do this. She buys them in certain standard sizes and then can trim them down to fit if it's not a standard size frame. So this is really nice to have on the back when it's a seasonal piece, or maybe you don't have any room left on the walls to hang those pieces. But this works really well on a bookshelf or side table or something like that. So anyway, oh, and sorry, one more thing, I should have written this down. It has beads on it. I think she added the beads for the eyes, but it called for the beads on the tree. I don't know, can you tell that they're sewn on? I'm not sure you can tell. But they're sewn on this way instead of this way. And normally when you put on a Mill Hill seed bead or petite bead, you put them on with 2 half crosses so that the bead is at an angle, and that's to fill in the stitch nicely, the space, the square where a stitch would be. But sometimes it's nice to have the beads going straight up, like for eyes. And in this case, the Christmas tree, it looks cool that way. So you can do it 2 ways. I looked very carefully, and her way was to go sideways a couple times to hold the bead upright. I learned that you put an X through it. So if you put an X through it, it will no longer be on an angle. It'll stand straight up. But her way, actually you don't notice the thread as much. So I learned something by looking closely at that. So there are a few other designs. Let's see. This was the first one with the crow on it in this seasonal series. And then it says pattern 9, but I think this was the second one in the crow series, and this was like a beach scene. So she's definitely going to do all of them. We'll eventually have these as shop models, at least temporarily. And then there's a new one, and it's called Snowballs and Icicles. Let's see, I can't remember how I wanted to show it up close. Shoot, I forgot. Oh, there we go. I was going to say, there's a certain angle that you didn't get as much glare. So, but when I come closer, then you can see the models in the back. But you can go to hoffmandis.com and look up Stitches by Ethel to see. So the giveaway this week is your choice of one of those charts. Now, if you pick Evergreens and Peppermint or the Snowballs and Icicles, I don't have those right now. The Snowball one is brand new. The other one I just ran out of, and now, of course, I need them because I have the model. So by the time I draw the name next week, you probably won't get them until like the beginning of the new year. But anyway, you can choose any of those 4 titles. Maybe just say Stitches by Ethel, so you don't have to remember the names, because I don't know if you caught what the names were. And the charts are $8. Okay, so that's that. And then, let's see, I wanted to remind you, I know I posted it on social media the other day as my Tuesday's tip, but I'm gonna try to do another Christmas video. Let's hope it doesn't take me 6 months to finish this one, you know, because of my elbow. But I am planning on doing it, and people have already started to send me their holiday decorating photos. So I don't even care if you're in them or your family's in them, or you just want to take a picture of the thing that you stitched, or it could be your fireplace mantle, it could be a vignette on your bookcase, it could be a holiday centerpiece on your dining room table, bonus points if they're stitching in the picture, but please feel free to email me. So if you have a device that allows you to choose the resolution of your photo, pick the highest one to send it, because I have found that even though the pictures look really good in the attachment, when I put them through iMovie, a lot of them end up being blurry. So I'm not sure why that is, but I know that if you can choose a higher resolution. So send those to me, and for every photo that you give me that I can use in my video, I will put your name in a drawing for a prize. And it's been various things over the years. Last year it was a gift certificate, but this year it's going to be a kit, and I'm going to give you Annabella's Christmas Simple Smalls, and it has these designs on the front and also these. So it's a $20 chart. I'm going to give you all the DMC floss because that's what it calls for, and then I'm going to give you a 1/4 yard of white or antique white. I guess it calls for white. Either Aida or Lugana or linen, whatever you want. I'll give you a 1/4 yard, and that'll be the gift. And so I'll draw that after, after the video has been completed and put online. Then I'll do the drawing, because that's when we'll figure out how many times your name goes in the drawing and all that good stuff. So that's that. I didn't want to forget. That actually is not in the right place on my list, but last time I forgot. So, okay, so that takes care of that. And then the next thing is my current whip. I didn't bring the chart over, but you've seen it a couple times, and I put the link to the freebie in the last 2 videos. I'm just saying that now in case I forget to do it again. And this was the Merry Christmas freebie from Teresa Kogut. And if you look closely, I know a lot of people said, oh, it looks fine with just the 1 strand, or oh, it looks good either way. You don't have to do all that extra work. But if you can tell, I did the RRY and the MAS with the extra top cross. And the reason I left my tails hanging is because, was it the A or the S? I think it was the A. I missed a stitch, so I was glad that I had kept the tail hanging, because I could go back and scoot that underneath and put an extra stitch there. So it's a little tedious to add that top cross, and because there's already stitching underneath it and you're not making a fresh stitch, it's easy to lose count. So I would start each row, and of course all the letters look different, so I would start each row with, okay, there are 4 stitches in this row. 1, 2, and I would count the stitches so that I wouldn't mess up. I don't know what happened that I missed that stitch. I must have gotten distracted. So Hallmark Christmas movies are really good to watch because you don't have to look up that often. So I'm getting there. And then I had a new start this week by Collection Tralala, coincidentally or not, also called Merry Christmas. And I've always wanted to stitch one of her things. We do have a few models in the store, but I wanted to do something that was mine. And I especially love her Halloween and winter Christmas patterns, but I'd like to do something for all seasons. I like to mix things up with designers and not keep doing the same designer all the time. As a shop owner, I feel like I have to have a variety of things done. So anyway, I thought it was time that I did one of hers. And when I was choosing what I was going to stitch, I was going through all the patterns and concentrating on winter and Christmas. And I know that this little guy is supposed to be a reindeer, but when I looked at it, I saw a dog. And here's why. Let me back up a little bit. Many of you have just expressed concern for me that maybe I'm not taking care of myself well enough, or to not forget to calm down and have some quiet time in my life, and also that you're praying for me and my family, and that you've been through similar things with your parents and whatever. Anyway, I wanted to mention something that Stitchy Wendy said a couple videos ago, because it's so true. Among the other comments that she made, she said, sending big hugs, as I know what you've shared is just a very small amount of what's occurred. And that is very true. Sometimes when I'm doing the video, what just happened is too raw to talk about, or we don't know the answer yet, or things are in transition and it's not appropriate. Like, I don't need to share you that much. Maybe you don't want to hear it. But anyway, the video that I did when I said my mom had just gotten back from the hospital, or maybe I said she was in the hospital, she actually was already back at her facility, but they had to call in hospice. So we hadn't signed the paperwork yet, but they deemed it necessary for her to go under hospice care. And I couldn't say it. I couldn't say it in that video. That was, what, like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? Anyway, we signed the paperwork with my dad on Monday, and then that afternoon I was waiting for a call from our vet with results from an ultrasound for our dog, Holly. And it wasn't good news. And maybe I'll talk about it another time, but she passed that week. Let's see, that was Monday, and she passed on Thursday. And I haven't talked about it since. So that's why when I looked at this chart and saw the cloud, instead of a reindeer, I saw a dog. And I thought of Holly. And she had come into the rescue at Christmas time. She didn't have a name because she had been a mill breeding dog. And of course, you know, they probably called them 1, 2, and 3 or A, B, and C or whatever, based on what crate they were in. And so they gave her the name of Tinsel. And that wasn't going to work for us. We couldn't think of a good nickname, and I don't know, it wasn't right. So all the way there to pick her up, we just went through all these names, and we tried to keep a T in the name. And then I told my husband, you know what? She doesn't even know she has a name. It's not going to matter what we call her. And if we don't want to call her something that starts with T, like, let's not go there. So then we started thinking of maybe a Christmassy name just to keep with the idea that we got her at Christmas. And so we settled on Holly, which we liked because it was also a girl's name. So anyway, I'm going to look at this. Whew. So this is going to be my tribute piece to Holly. So this is what I got done so far. And I started in the middle with Santa, and then I couldn't find $37.99, which was the roof color. So, I mean, I did it later, but at that time I couldn't find it. So I did a couple snowflakes, and then I decided to move over to the tree, just so that I could keep stitching. And I didn't want to have to count the house out without the roof being there. And then, as I was looking at it, I started panicking because this was a piece of raw cashel from my stash, and I don't even think I even measured the piece of fabric. I'm not even sure I figured out the stitch count of the design. I think I just started stitching. Have you ever done that? And then as I'm stitching, I'm thinking, girl, you should stop and count this. And I'm like, no, I have my fleece on my lap and I'm watching a Hallmark movie and I don't feel like getting up. So I just kept stitching. And I thought if I found out later that it wasn't going to fit, because I didn't have the roof on, I could always just like put the Santa in a really small frame and maybe do something with the tree. And I thought, no, I'm just going to keep on stitching. I was just stubborn. And anyway, I did the 2 trees, and then I did more of the red over here. And then I thought, you know how I like to stitch my white first. So I didn't want to stitch the white up against a hand-dyed color for the house, which is going to be like a blue-gray. I decided I better start stitching the snow. And then I would get to a point where I could count down to the bottom, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So I did change some of the colors. I started with the Atelier threads from France, and I didn't have a lot of them. And I also know that the color that they had for the white is actually beige, because I've had that color before. They said that the substitute for Gentle Art was chalk. Well, in real life, it's not. It doesn't match at all, but I still thought I wanted to use chalk because I like my white to look a little whiter. So, sorry, I knew that was going to happen. I didn't even practice because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do the video at all. Anyway, this was one of the colors that I did have in stock. I don't know how to say these, and my iTranslate program doesn't work anymore unless I pay for it. So I think it's fougere. So this was supposed to be the lighter tree, and I actually stitched it in Gentle Art Shutter Green. They said the match was Green with Envy, and it's not. You could use Green with Envy, of course, but the match to what they used was more like Shutter Green. So just be careful when you're using substitutes, even if it's on the chart that the designer made. They may be looking at something online. They might be looking at an older die lot. They might be using somebody else's substitution list. So just be careful. Make sure that all the colors you use go together no matter what it is. And that's my advice based on this experience. I am using what just might be my new favorite red, and it is one of the French threads. It's called Gorgon. Does anyone know what that means? Because I tried to look it up online, not through the translation program, and I got a lot of very weird responses. I have no idea what this means, but I think it's a really nice red, so I'm enjoying that. And then the smaller, darker tree is in Forest Glade, which is what they said the substitute was for Vermano. And I've had that before, and I don't remember what it looks like, but I'm good with the Forest Glade. I think I like it. Some of the stars are supposed to be in Celeste, and they said the substitute is Summer Shower. No, not really. Not really. There's better matches to that. Okay, and then for the tree trunks, which is not a big deal because there's not that much, and I think I'm just going to do it in a solid DMC anyway, but their thread has a lot of variation in it. And they said to use dark chocolate, which is, so, you know, again, it could just be the die lots, but I'm mixing in, you know, some DMC in there too for the smaller areas. I think those were the only colors I wanted to show you in that. So anyway, we can talk more about it as I get more stitched. So that's that. And I think that's all. I think that's all I was going to say about that. Okay. Alrighty, next up is new charts. We only got 2 small automatics this week, you know, because of the time of year. Snow Time from Scissor Tail Designs, right up my alley with the snowman and the reindeer. So this is $10, and I will definitely be doing these in the new year. And then from Stitching with the Housewives, in the Let's Go Ride a Bike series, February is Sweetheart Street, and that's $9. And the month to month is February for $10 because it has the 2 designs in it. And then the random number generator chose Scott Benson to receive Snowy Petites from Little House Needleworks, and he is local to us, so I know I will see him in person to pick this up. That's all I have for today. There may or may not be a video next week. It depends on how much I have to talk about. Otherwise, we might have to wait until the Christmas decorating video, so don't forget to send your pictures to me. Okay, let's clean up this teary-eyed video and get it uploaded. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Whoosh. Okay, we've done this ending like a million times. We've done the ending a million times. Just say goodbye. Goodbye.